What's the most chaotic message you've gotten from an ex at 2 a.m.? I never expected a text from my ex at 2 in the morning after years of absolute silence. But there it was, vibrating on my nightstand in the deep hush before dawn. My heart lurched the moment I saw the name, Chase. The last time we spoke, he slammed my apartment door so hard the walls shook. We both said things that cut too deep. I spent the next year forcing myself not to check his social media, not to answer the phone whenever a blocked number appeared. Yet I couldn't tear my eyes away from the glowing screen now. His message was oddly short. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, Madison, but I need your help. Please don't ignore this. My first instinct was to delete it on the spot, then a second buzz. I swear I'm not doing this lightly. Something's wrong. I'll explain everything if you just talk to me. My hand trembled. It had been almost 2 years since we broke up. My new life was calm, maybe even a little boring. I had a good job at an architecture firm, a small but cozy apartment, and no reason to revisit the chaos that was Chase. But curiosity gnawed at what could be so urgent he'd text me at 2 in the morning. I tapped out a reply. What do you want? Then pressed send. My stomach churned, half regretting it already. Almost immediately, he replied, I'm sorry, truly, but I'm in trouble and they know about you too. Just hear me out. I typed faster than I intended. Who are they? Are you drunk? My anger seeped through. He answered in seconds. No, I'm not drunk. Meet me at the Redwood Motel room 14. I can't explain over the phone. Please, Mads. I clenched my teeth at the nickname. He used to call me Mads whenever he wanted to make me laugh or calm me down. Now it only stirred old wounds. But I found myself yanking on a hoodie and shoes, grabbing my keys before common sense could stop me. I told myself I was just going to shut him down in person, demand he never contact me again. But a voice in my head whispered that if he was truly in danger, I had to at least see for myself. The city was eerily quiet at that hour, streetlights casting long shadows on empty roads. The Redwood Motel sat near the old highway, its neon vacancy sign half broken. I parked beside a rusted truck and took a shaky breath. Everything in me screamed to turn back, but I walked to room 14 and knocked quietly. The door opened a crack. Chase's face appeared. He looked terrible, gaunt, eyes sunken, hair disheveled. He ushered me inside, quickly locking the door. The place reeked of stale cigarettes and cheap disinfectant. Thanks for coming, he breathed, voice strained. I folded my arms. Talk, because I'm not staying long. He ran a hand over his stubble. I got involved with people I shouldn't have. They run a blackmail and extortions scheme. At first, I didn't think it was a big deal, just passing along some info for quick cash. But it escalated. They realized I used to date you, and they started hinting they could force me to get them certain documents from your company. And if I didn't deliver, they'd come after. I stared at him, heartbeat pounding. That's ridiculous. I'm not part of whatever you're doing. Why would they come after me? His jaw tightened. Because they think you have access to certain financial or architectural data they can exploit. Something about new development contracts. I told them you're just an associate at the firm, that you don't have top-level or clearance. They don't believe me. They threatened to hurt you to motivate. My mind spun. So you dragged me into a shady motel room in the middle of the night. That's supposed to help? His eyes flickered with desperation. I'm trying to warn you, and I need your help. I have a thumb drive with some of their communications, files, logs, partial transactions. If we can decrypt it, maybe we can take it to the cops. But they're watching me. I'm out of options. I should have walked out. I owed him nothing after the way he left, after the heartbreak and bitter fights. But something about his ragged fear got to me. You think the police will believe us? I asked quietly. He grimaced. Maybe not at first. But if there's enough evidence, the bigger problem is that we might not know which cops are clean. These people have connections. I need someone I trust to look at these files, see what's there, and figure out a plan. And you're the only one I can turn to. That stung. Trust? You lost that right years ago. Why should I risk my neck for you? He lowered his gaze. Because I don't want you to get hurt. If you do nothing, they'll come. For you anyway. And believe me, these people don't make empty threats. A knot twisted in my gut. Part of me hated him for dragging me into this mess, yet I sensed he was telling the truth. Let me see the drive, I said finally. He handed me a small USB. Look at it on a safe computer, not your main work machine, he warned. I think some of it's encrypted, maybe booby-trapped. I sighed, slipping it into my pocket. What about you? You can't just hide out here forever. He swallowed. I'll move around. Try to stay off their radar. If you find anything, call me at this number. He slid a cheap flip phone across the table. It's a burner. Don't use your personal cell if you can help it. I took it, feeling like I'd stepped into a bad movie. Okay, but if you're lying, I'm not, he said, voice trembling. I know I screwed up before, but not like this. I'm sorry, Madison. I left without another word, the cold night air prickling my skin. The drive home was surreal. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see headlights tailings. Me. Once in my apartment, I locked every bolt and chain, my heart still pounding. I barely slept. In the morning, I called in sick to work, rummaging through my closet. For an old laptop I rarely used, I set it up on my kitchen table, closed the blinds, and inserted the USB. A folder popped up containing random files, some PDF chat logs, some videos, spreadsheets with cryptic entries. I opened a few text files. They mentioned leverage, payments, threats, and I recognized the names of major corporate clients, even a senator. One video showed a blurry figure handing an envelope to another in a parking garage. The audio was distorted, but I heard references to Hush. My stomach churned. Whoever these extortionists were, they targeted big fish. And apparently, they wanted data from my architecture firm, maybe something about upcoming development deals. If they got hold of sensitive information, they could blackmail more clients. I called Chase on the burn. He answered in a whisper. Yeah? It's me. I looked at the files. This is serious. He exhaled shakily. I told you. We have to do something. I rubbed my temple. And by something, you mean contact the cops? A reporter? I'm not even sure where to start. I know someone, he said. A private investigator who deals with corporate fraud. Maybe she can confirm the authenticity of these files. Then we figure out the next step. I was reluctant, but I didn't see a better option. Fine, text me her info, but don't drag me into any more shady motels. A faint chuckle, humorless. I won't. Be careful, Mads. I flinched at the nickname. After hanging up, I realized my hands were shaking. What was I getting myself into? Chase's PI contact, a woman named Lauren Baxter, agreed to meet me in a discreet cafe. She was sharp-eyed, mid-40s, and carried herself with the calm confidence of someone who'd seen it all. I handed her the USB, explained how I got it. She frowned at the mention of blackmail. Let me guess. They think your architecture firm has valuable inside info on real estate expansions or contracts? I nodded. Apparently, I work on blueprint designs. I'm not high level, but they assume I can access whatever they need. Lauren scanned a few files on her tablet. This is bigger than the usual scheme. The names here. Some serious corporate players, maybe government angles too. If these criminals succeed, they could rake in millions. I swallowed hard. They threatened my ex. And me. Indirect. He's terrified. Lauren gave me a wry look. Fear can be a great motivator. But yes, you should be on guard. Let me dig deeper. See what's real. I'll reach out to a couple of contacts who aren't compromised. If we're lucky, we can bring this to the right authorities. Leaving the cafe, I felt a small flicker of hope, yet I couldn't shake the sense of being watched. Twice I glanced over my shoulder, convinced a figure had ducked, out of sight. Maybe I was just paranoid. But Chase's warnings echoed in my head. Days passed. At work, I tried to focus on my normal tasks, but every ring of my phone jolted me. A coworker, Sam, noticed my jumpiness. You okay? He asked. You've been on edge all week. I forced a smile, lying about personal stress. Meanwhile, Lauren left messages on the burner phone. Updates about verifying the data. She believed it was authentic, that we had enough to blow open a major blackmail ring, but we still need a direct link. To the top, she said. We can't just scare off some henchmen. We need the big fish. Around that time, I received an anonymous text on my personal phone. We know what you're doing. Stop, or you and your ex suffer. My blood turned to ice. I didn't show it to Sam or anyone. Instead, I took an early lunch break, ducking out to phone Lauren. She told me it was typical intimidation. They're probably monitoring your ex and discovered he gave you the files. Stay calm, keep a routine. I'll expedite contact with law enforcement I trust. That night, I triple-checked my door locks again. My friend Tara dropped by, bringing takeout. We'd known each other since college, and she immediately picked up on my tension. What's going on? You look like you're expecting a burglar. I debated lying, but Tara was the one person I truly trusted. I spilled everything. Chase's text, the blackmail ring, Lauren's involvement. She stared, horrified. Why didn't you tell me sooner? We should call the police. That's what we're planning, I assured her. But we have to be careful. These people might have influence with certain officers. Lauren's hooking me up with someone safe. Tara grabbed my hand. Until that happens, you're not staying here alone. Pack some stuff. You can crash at my place. I hesitated, but the anonymous text weighed on. All right, maybe just for a few nights. I was grateful for her protective streak. I stuffed clothes into a bag and followed her home. Part of me felt foolish. Was I really in mortal danger? But every time I doubted, I recalled the raw fear in Chase's voice, and the hair on my arms stood up. A week later, Lauren arranged a meeting with a detective named Ruiz, someone reputed to be incorruptible. We convened in a private lounge above a restaurant. Ruiz listened intently as Lauren, Chase, who sneaked in through a back entrance, And I laid out the evidence. Chase looked even more ragged than before, overshadowed by guilt. He confessed how he initially passed along some minor leads about businesses, but then they forced me to dig deeper, threatened to kill me if I refused, he said. When they found out about Madison, they told me to use her firm's data. I couldn't do it. Ruiz examined the files. This is serious, he murmured, eyes narrowed. If what you say is true, we're dealing with an organized network. I'll have to coordinate with my captain, gather a task force. But it's delicate. A single leak in the department could tip them off. Chase fidgeted. So what do? We set a trap, Ruiz said matter-of-factly. They want data from Ms. Rivers' firm. Yes, let them think you're willing to deliver. That you roped Ms. Rivers into it. We'll stage a meeting with hidden surveillance. Catch them in the act. My mouth went dry. That sounds dangerous. It is, Ruiz said, but gently. But if we can record them threatening you, or exchanging evidence of blackmail, we can make arrests without letting them slip away. I looked at Chase, who rubbed his temples. If we do nothing, they'll keep expanding, he said softly, and they'll never leave you alone. I swallowed. Fine, I'm in. My voice shook. Ruiz nodded. We'll plan carefully. You'll meet in a public place where my team can blend in. We'll give you a dummy flash drive that looks legit. When they ask for it, we record everything. Then we swoop in. We spend hours strategizing. Lauren offered to help behind the scenes. Tara demanded. I sent her updates too. I was petrified, but I realized I had an odd sense of relief. Seeing a path forward. Maybe we could stop these people for good. 2 days later, late evening, I stood outside a busy city plaza, feeling my stomach twist in knots. Chase waited with me, occasionally glancing around. The plan was for him to text the blackmailers, say he'd convinced me to hand over crucial data. They chose this plaza for the exchange. Ruiz's team milled about, disguised as tourists or passers-by. I spotted Lauren wearing a scarf, sipping coffee at a bench. When a sleek black SUV pulled up, my pulse hammered. 2 men got out, both wearing business casual clothes that couldn't hide their predatory demeanor. One had a scar across his jaw, the other wore tinted glasses even in the dim light. Scarjaw approached us. Chase, nice to see you being cooperative, he said, voice dripping sarcasm. Then he looked me up and down. So this is the one with the golden files? Chase nodded, forcing a bland smile. Yeah, we've got everything you asked for on a flash drive. He gestured at me, and I held up a small USB. My hands trembled despite trying to appear calm. Scarjaw raised a brow. I thought you'd bring the entire laptop. Hope you're not playing games. I swallowed. All the relevant info is on here, I said, attempting confidence. Blueprints, contract details, everything. Hand it over, Scarjaw snapped. First, let's discuss my ex's safety, I countered, hating how my voice shook. No more threats against him or me. He laughed, a harsh bark. You're in no position to negotiate. Give me the drive or we can find more creative ways to persuade you. He glanced at tinted glasses who smirked. Chase locked his jaw. We don't have time for intimidation. Here, he reached for the flash. Drive. My heart pounded. This was the moment Ruiz's hidden cameras capturing them, demanding the data under threat. Suddenly, tinted glasses stiffened, scanning the plaza. He must have noticed something off. Maybe one of Ruiz's team looked suspicious. We're being watched, he muttered, jerking his chin at Scarjaw. Let's move. In a blink, they drew concealed guns, eyes flicking around. Scarjaw grabbed me by the arm, his grip iron. Which one of you is the cop? He snarled. People screamed and scattered. I heard Ruiz shouting commands, saw officers rushing in. Tinted glasses fired a shot into the air, the crack echoing through the plaza. My ears rang. Scarjaw jerked me backward, using me like a shield. Adrenaline roared in my veins. Don't shoot, one detective yelled. Drop your weapon. Scarjaw pressed the gun barrel to my temple. Back off or she's dead. My body locked in terror. I glimpsed Chase, eyes wide with horror. My mind spun. I was certain this was the end. My heart hammered so hard it hurt. But suddenly, a blur of motion came from behind us. Lauren tackled Scarjaw's arm, knocking the gun aside. He fired a wild shot that zinged past my ear. I dropped to the pavement, shaking. Then an officer lunged in, and everything erupted in chaos. Scarjaw was wrestled down, tinted glasses, tried to run, only to be tackled by 2 detectives. Sirens wailed, lights flashed, and I lay there, stunned. When the dust settled, I was guided to an ambulance, trembling so badly I couldn't stand. Chase crouched beside me, tears in his eyes. God, Mads, I'm sorry, he whispered. I grabbed his hand just to feel something solid. Detective Ruiz arrived, panting. They're in custody. We got the whole exchange on video. Great job. He shook his head. You okay? I nodded shakily, unable to form words. The paramedic said my vitals were high, but I'd be all right. Lauren, sporting a bruise on her cheek, offered a smile. Guess that gave me my daily workout, she quipped, voice trembling. Statements were taken. The flash drive, the recorded threats. It was enough to charge Scarjaw, Tinted, Glasses, and presumably more of their associates once the investigation traced the chain of command. They'd be facing serious prison time. I crashed on Tara's couch that night, too wired to sleep. The next morning, news sites buzzed with headlines about an attempted extortion bust. The names of the suspects weren't fully disclosed yet, but it was out in the open. My phone blew up with calls from coworkers, worried about me after seeing the news. I told them I was fine, just needed a little time off. Chase disappeared for a bit, dealing with his own questioning. He later told me he planned to testify, to turn over everything he knew about the ring. "I owe it to you," he said quietly, and to everyone else they threatened. His words made me think of our past, how we used to dream big, how we laughed at inside jokes. Now we were two people shaped by the fallout of a crisis. We stood on the curb outside the police station, the sun setting behind tall buildings. "So what happens now?" I asked softly. He shrugged, looking exhausted. "I don't know. I might leave town, get a fresh start. Staying here feels complicated." I swallowed the lump in my throat. Despite everything, a part of me still cared. "You do what you need to," I said, voice unsteady. He nodded, then, almost shyly, leaned in to hug. I let him. "Thank you for trusting me enough to help," he whispered. "I'm sorry for every way I ever hurt you." I blinked back tears, remembering those last bitter fights before we broke up. "I guess we all mess up sometimes, but we did the right thing." And he nodded and turned away, shoving his hands in his pockets. I watched him walk down the street until he disappeared around a corner, a figure of unresolved history. Would I ever see him again? Part of me hoped so. Part of me dreaded it. But at least the ring was finished, the shadow of blackmail scattered. Lauren called with an update. "They rolled on a bigger boss," she said, voice triumphant. "We might see more arrests soon. You and Chase did real good." I thanked her, my chest filling with cautious relief. That night, Tara and I popped open a cheap bottle of champagne to celebrate. We clinked glasses in her little kitchen, both of us still a bit stunned by the turn of events. In the weeks that followed, I returned to work. My boss was incredibly supportive. Once she got the gist of why I'd been so distracted, a sense of normalcy crept back into my days, although, at night, I sometimes woke in a cold sweat, remembering the gun at my temple. My phone's late-night chimes still made my heart pound. Even so, I found reasons to be grateful. For Tara's friendship, for Lauren's bravery, for Detective Ruiz's integrity, and strangely, for Chase's text at 2 in the morning, which set everything in motion. That single message dragged me into the darkest place I'd ever been. Yet it also forced a reckoning. I learned I was stronger than I thought, that I could handle a crisis without crumbling. And I realized that second chances can come in unexpected forms. Chase and I might never be a couple again, but we helped each other do the right thing when it mattered. About a month later, I got a small postcard in the mail, no return address. On the front was a picture of a quiet mountain lake, and on the back, a single line in Chase's messy handwriting. "Thank you for saving me from myself." See, I held it for a long moment, letting a tear slip down my cheek. Then I tucked it away in a drawer. Maybe it was closure, or maybe it was just a reminder of how complicated life can be. Tara joked that I should write a book about the whole ordeal. I laughed it off, but sometimes I think about it. People love stories about redemption, about ex-lovers uniting against a criminal enterprise. But real life is messy. We didn't ride off into the sunset hand in hand. We parted ways with more regrets and lessons than anything else. Yet I can't deny that for a moment, we were on the same side again. Late one evening, I found myself rereading the old texts on the burner phone I still had. "I'm sorry, but I need your help. Please don't ignore this." It all came flooding back. My fear, my anger, the entire insane journey. I realized that text might have saved more than just our skins. It might have saved whatever tiny shred of faith I had in him, in people's ability to do the right thing when push comes to shove. I lay awake that night, my mind drifting. Yes, I'd almost died in the plaza. Yes, the memory of that gun pressed to my head haunted me. But the criminals were in custody. More arrests the way, and I was free to move forward. Sometimes you have to walk through fire to get rid of the debris you've been carrying for years. That might sound melodramatic, but it's true. The nightmares, the fear, they slowly dimmed over time, replaced by a quieter confidence I didn't have before. I learned to trust my gut in a crisis, to rely on real friends, and to stand up for what's right even when it's terrifying. And for that, ironically, I had Chase's midnight text to thank. The worst kind of chaos can be the catalyst for the best kind of growth. It doesn't erase the pain, but it can transform it into something meaningful. Sometimes the darkest nights lead you to the brightest truths. And for me, it all began with that 2 a.m. message from Chase. I never wanted to see his name on my phone again. Yet, if I hadn't answered, I might never have uncovered the danger lurking in the shadows. It was a journey that tested my courage, my friendships, and my willingness to do the right thing, even when I was terrified. In the end, I learned that sometimes the chaos we fear is the catalyst, and though scars remain, I wouldn't trade the lessons I gained for anything.